Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, council members, our city officials, and also our home audience. I'd like to welcome you to the December 11th City Council meeting. We have 6 items on our agenda this evening. We'll start out. Mr. Fossum, would you please continue with the roll call of members, please?
Corcoran. Florima.
Here.
Gray.
Here.
Hines.
Here.
Kearney. Neal. Patrick. Kroll.
Here.
Tapman. Here.
Thank you. I know this is going to be a challenge, but if everybody would, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The minutes from the previous meetings have been distributed for review. Unless there's any changes that somebody wants to bring up, do we have a motion to accept the minutes by Mr. Florima, seconded by Mrs. Gray?
Point of order,
Yes.
we do not have quorum.
That's 5.
Five quorum.
5 quorum. 7 for any type of
Legislation.
rules, if we have to do any rules. Roll call on the motion to accept the minutes, please.
Florima. Gray.
Yes.
Hines.
Yes.
Kearney.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Tapman. Yes.
And the minutes have been accepted as they are. At this time, we have reports from our committees. Who would like to report? Mr. Kroll?
The Finance Committee has 2 items on tonight's agenda. The first is item number 5 at first reading, which is an ordinance authorizing the city auditor to create a new line item in the general fund, which would be entitled Mayor's Special Programs Miscellaneous, to accept and appropriate all wedding ceremony fees received by the mayor's office. The second item on tonight's agenda for the finance is number 6, which is at first reading. This is a resolution supporting and a challenge to the constitutionality of amendments proposed by the Ohio General Assembly to Chapter 718 of the Ohio Revised Code relating to municipal income tax. And the auditor will speak to this in her report. I also want to let everyone know that there will be a budget, the final budget meeting will be 6:30, December the 18th, here in council chambers. So that is 6:30, December the 18th, next Monday, here in council chambers, the final budget meeting. That will be followed by a finance committee meeting at its conclusion. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kroll. I do, just quickly, as I had sent emails to everybody, I want to try to get a grasp on all the committee assignments that are still open or out right now. We want to try to wrap things up as best as we can before the end of the year. So while I have you available, anyway, I'm just trying to find out whether the assignments have been solved, whether they're out of committee, whether they've been dropped, if there's going to be new action between now and the end of the year, and if not, then as we progress into next year, they're going to be reassigned. A couple that you have, the strategic planning, will that probably carry over into next year and be reassigned?
That'll carry over. That is still in the works, yes.
Okay, and the only, that's the only thing I have from you, so thank you, Mr. Kroll. Anybody else? Mrs. Gray?
Thank you, President Arnold. The Human Resources Committee does not have anything on tonight's agenda, but I would like to report out on specific assignments. Assignment 16-102, which is a review of compensation of Civil Service Commission members. It's currently, or should be, with the Law Director's Office and will be finalized at our next council meeting. Assignment number 17-122, which is to request legislation to hire a fall/winter seasonal clerical person with prior appropriated money. In conversation with Director Carmen, that committee assignment will be dropped. And in reference to 16-079, non-discrimination, that is referred back to the committee, the Community Affairs Committee. And so that cleans up, I believe, all of the human resources assignments made to committee.
All right, very good. Thank you very much. Okay, conclude? Okay.
Conclude my report.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Tatman?
Thank you, President Arnold. Engineering Committee has one item on the night up for third reading. It is the number one on our list tonight. It's to authorize a contract with the Ross County Commissioners to do the Ross County do the building department inspections for commercial building. Also, the Engineering Committee had a meeting on the 6th of this month, and we had 3 items on there. 17-137, it's a work in progress, but we all agreed, we've approved it. It's the Western Avenue request for a zoning change so the Atomic Credit Union can build on Western Avenue. But like I said, it is a work in progress, and I will have that to the law directors shortly. Also 17-139, it's up for further study. It's considering traffic control on Allen and Worthington. We have some issues there we need to discuss, and I think we kind of all agreed that just putting a stop sign is necessarily going to help it, but we're going to study that further. Also 17-142, traffic changes around the school. It's a work in progress, but we will have something to the law director shortly. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Tatman. I had a few others, we discussed them the other night, that are still in discussions. To vacate the alley on Bridge Street behind the Norse used car lot, two-way traffic on 2nd Street, truck route signs, where did that go?
We got that out of committee.
That's out of committee, okay. And then streetscape maintenance and sidewalk ordinance, and we talked about those.
Yeah, the streetscape and the two-way street on 2nd are both big issues, and it's going to take some further study. I've got 2 inches of paperwork that I've gone through, and I'm still going through it.
All right, those will move on and be reassigned next year. Any other committee reports? Yes, Ms. Hearn.
Yes, I would like to report on the second reading for opposing the construction of an on-site waste disposal facility at the U.S. Department of Energy Portsmouth Gasoline Diffusion Plant south of Piketon, Ohio. We did not have our second reading last week, but I asked for that to go to second reading tonight.
And that's the only thing that I have of you, from you. That concludes your report. That concludes your report.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other committee reports at this time?
I'm going to be reporting for Beth Neal. She's out of town tonight. And we have the second reading this evening to create a designated outdoor refreshment area for downtown Chillicothe and designated hotel area on Bridge Street. And she just wanted to, I think we've had speakers and we've had our public forum for this, and so and it's on timeline crunch, and so our next meeting will have our third read.
Also, she had on tonight about the thoroughfare plan, reprioritizing it on State Route 59 to be a high priority for intermediate. So that went through development as well. That's item number 3 will be our second reading tonight. Any other reports? I have a few more to ask, if you don't mind. Miss Patrick isn't here this evening. Joel, I do have some assignments that I would kind of like to review with you, if you don't mind. I have, I'm sorry. see, I'll come back to you. The pawn shops, the assignment dealing with the pawn shops and name registry.
It's gonna take work.
Okay, so it's still in progress.
Yeah.
The mass notification, assignment for mass notification.
I finally was able to, get with, Mr. Minnie's help, the actual quotes, seeing as how we've had other issues. I'll just bring the quotes to bear and, introduce them to council, and if they decide on a particular one.
So, still moving,
Yes,
okay. Update of parking tickets.
that one I will need to, meet with the law director at a time convenient to her because of the language to get correct.
Okay. This was a dangling one, $312, received from a damaged cruiser. 17,116.
Let me look that, I'll have to research that.
And the other one was a more recent one, $1,500 grant from the Elks going to the city, Chillicothe Fire Department.
That'll just be,
Okay, all right.
and
Will that one probably be before the end of the year?
Yeah.
The Elks?
and, the, current one for, the insurance for, traffic signals, it's been turned in for 30-some odd thousand,
Yeah, that was just new assignment. This
turned
is-
in today.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Do you have anything else to add?
No.
Okay. Seal or Ms. Corcoran, I'm sorry. I also had two that I wanted to ask on you. The assignment dealing with peddlers and solicitors.
That one we're gonna be looking at in 2018. I think I've spoke to that at a couple of different meetings.
Okay.
That we're gonna be looking at that in conjunction also with, special events and street closures and, some of the ways we're doing things downtown and in the parks, that we would like to encompass that all at one time, not to have to keep piecing it together.
And the other was a recent request to consolidate the accounting for parks and recreation, which has just recently got its approval.
Right.
Will that
That will,
finish up before the end of the year?
it should.
Okay. Okay. All right. Anybody else have anything to add on committee assignments? If not, then we'll go to our reports of our officials. Our mayor, Mr. Feeney.
Thanks, President Arnold. A few quick items tonight. We have 2 more weeks left of leaf pickup. We have had a seasonal crew and full-time folks do a nice job this season. Most of the leaves are down. They have been picked up. We're still in our regular cycle. So I believe we are in week 4, so this is Thursday. If your trash is picked up on Thursdays, this is your week. But as things slow down a little bit, please feel free to call the service center, and we'll be by and get the rest of those leaves. A couple months ago, council passed legislation appropriating money for 4 new stop signs. They are up. 2 of them are up. I'm sorry. The 2 stop signs for north and southbound traffic on Walnut Street at 4th Street are up. My appreciation to the service department. You can see the flashing lights all the way from Water Street. I think it was a wise choice by council to approve those, and it seems to be a safer intersection. We will be installing the next 2, which go at the intersection of Mulberry and 2nd Street, when the pavement is warm enough to paint the stop bars. They'll go up. And as a reminder, those lights, those flashing stop signs will not stay indefinitely, but as they are needed in other locations in the future, we'll be able to rotate those as people become accustomed to traffic. And I don't think council intends to vote on the second reading tonight of the waste facility in Piketon, but I thought I'd offer a couple comments, thoughts of my own. This has been one of the most complicated processes I've been involved in five years in city government. I appreciate council's willingness and thoroughness on the topic, because it's not an easy one. It seems like at first blush, the easiest thing to do would say, yes, we oppose it, nuclear dump, which I think most people do in their backyard, but as it turned out, it's a lot more difficult than that and complicated, as evidenced by a multi-year process and site-specific advisory boards and that kind of thing. As I've weighed different angles and topics and had conversations with members of Pike County and Ross County, council people there and here, the thing that I'm most certain of, and the thing that I became aware of that I hadn't been before, was the existence of landfills and plumes within the facility perimeter. And the thing that worries me most right now is that there's no obligation to clean those landfills and plumes up. I think that for our immediate health and safety in this community, it's my understanding that the request has gone in to Ohio EPA to have those removed, but there's no written commitment to remove those right now. And so I feel very strongly that whatever action this council takes, or whatever action the final resolution on this topic is, I think it's crucial to this community, speaking for our constituents here, that that issue is resolved with certainty. I think the SSAB board recommended reopening the record of decision. If that's what it takes to make sure that those landfills and plumes are cleaned up with certainty, and they had 6, I think, recommendations that included a strong commitment to redevelopment of the site in the future, whatever that might be. Those are the topics I feel most certain about, and that I think most impact our health and safety right now. And so that's, you know, as council considers over the next 2 weeks whether or not the position they'll take on the topic. My position is closely aligned with that of the SSAB. I think that's a body that's taken a lot of time, has been observing this process through eyes that maybe we would. I've realized how little I know over the past few months about geology and geography and nuclear science. Not that I thought I knew anything to begin with, but in any case, that's where I stand on the issue for council's consideration, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mayor Finn. We move on to our auditor, Ms. Crystal Spetnagle.
The auditor's office has one item on the agenda tonight, item number 6. This is a resolution to support a group of municipalities in a lawsuit that they will be in beginning in 2018. It is to challenge the new tax law, House Bill 49. This new law will allow individuals and require businesses to file their income taxes online. It will cause a problem because it not only will limit the city's ability to audit tax returns, but it will require an administration fee. We will be paid quarterly. There's just a lot of things that are in line with what our city needs when it comes to our income tax collections. So I ask that we do waive the 3-read roll today, if Dustin can make that announcement. And that's all I have.
Thank you. And we move on to our law director, which is Ms. Rutherford.
Thank you, President Arnold. I'd just like to remind council that you have end of the year legislation that you intend to get on the agenda next time. You better get it to my office. We do have people off with the holidays approaching, and we'd like to make sure that everything that needs to get on the agenda does that. I don't get to vote in council meetings, but I do resound what the auditor Spetnagle said about the House bill, that the changes to municipal income tax. I think that local municipalities are getting the raw end of the deal here, and the state's taking away a lot of our ability to govern ourselves. And I think that we should make sure that we oppose that. And lastly, I'd just like to say that I've been doing this for a while, and this is one of the most people I've ever seen in here, and I think it's pretty exciting that people come out and get involved in political matters, and I hope that your interests don't end when this goes to the 3rd read next time, and that you continue to be involved in government. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Rutherford. I really don't have anything per se to announce tonight, other than the fact that before we meet the next time, it'll be Christmas. So I'd like to take this opportunity to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. Our meeting will be after Christmas, and I'll re-announce it later at meeting schedules, but it will be Wednesday, December the 27th at 7:30 here in Chambers. So that will be our next meeting before the end of the year. Unfortunately, the sign-in sheet's clear across the room, so if everybody gives me a second, we will move on to audience participation. I need a tractor for this. Okay, folks. I'll just remind everybody that public participation, according to Council Rule 22, does limit each speaker to 5 minutes presentation. Actually, it's Council Rule 23. There's another one that got inserted in there. And a total limitation of 15 minutes per subject. I will silently try to indicate, try to get your attention when you have about 1 minute remaining to give you ample time to summarize your presentation. Anybody who wishes to speak or add anything that's not on the sheet can, if you have enough time. We actually have a very, very full sheet, but we do need your name and address if you do get up and speak that not being on the sheet. I mentioned earlier, just kind of keep consideration. Like I say, we've probably got 20 names or better here on the sheet, so take some consideration of the other people that want to talk. We do have 15 minutes, and that's not a lot of time according to the rule. So try to state your point as best you can. The first person on the list is Christy
Renner?
Renner. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for letting me speak again this week. My subject's kind of black and white and gray. The original Ports SSAB had 20 members representing the surrounding counties. And we had board members from Sierra Club, farmers, real estate advisors, and everything. We also had Larry Parker, who was a hand-picked first national EPA. And proud to serve with the guy who knew a lot. He had a environmental consulting business. Dr. David Minuto came to every meeting, and his vast experience and just a person as a citizen, giving us clarification on different things, I found was very helpful. My point to all this was that the first members had, you have 6 years on the board, and that's all you can serve. And the first members, there were 20 of us, we started in 2008, and we were educated, we were traveling across the nation, we were taken on tours by former site directors. We were also toured the disposal cells and sites in various degrees of cleanups, from Rocky Flats to Clyde, Utah, and everything. One of the points I want to make here, so I can give everybody more time to speak, and these are all public records, and I have the website on here. You can see the meetings through the years that we've kept for every subcommittee meeting and every meeting that we've had. Well, you've heard last week when I talked about the 1302 meeting and how we came, the 1302 recommendation, and how we came to agree on that. What you haven't heard is on the 1505 that everyone keeps discussing, and how the board passed and rescinded the on-site waste disposal cells. Where I feel that is shades of gray. After 5 years on the board, I come back to the board. I was on a different site and came back, and I was asked to come back because I still had a year left to serve. And in that year, 2015, we had 6 new board members, and at the time we didn't have a full board of 20. But they let us, the federal board had guided us and said, we can have less than 20 and everything. We had 6 new ones that year. In September 2015, when this recommendation came up, the basis of this recommendation, and you can read it online, was not the on-site waste disposal cell, as much as the consent degree wording and the ROD. And we got wrapped around budgets and the process buildings and the milestones. Some of us on the board asked to give everyone more time to process the information. And with several new board members, when you hear radioactivity, all you think is, where are they hiding Godzilla? The comments in this meeting even state from the board and the author that it has nothing against the disposal cell, just the wording for the landfills and plume. We took a preliminary vote to say, are you comfortable tonight with this recommendation? It was the 8 that were ready to vote. 7 wanted more time. And I felt with the new people on there that they needed the training and the processing that we've had years of to understand the importance of this. I felt like the new committee members had been bamboozled. We took a vote, not from the concerned and then we took this vote after the concerned citizens had a chance to make the comments. But sometimes it was the same people who had called us baby killers, teenage players, that had a chance to scare the board members, and so we did our final vote. We had 10 approved, 2 opposed, and 2 abstained. And I believe that that says a lot about how this final decision had come about. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, the next name that I have on the list is Allison Lake.
Thank you, President Arnold. Hi, Council. My name is Allison Lake. I'm a resident of the city of Chillicothe. I'm also an environmental scientist with a background in geology and soil and groundwater remediation. To touch base a little bit on what Mayor Feely said, there's a few things that I would like Council to objectively consider before proceeding with this vote. From my standpoint, it's been incredibly frustrating to hear the members of Card and Pike say some of the things that they have. While I respect everything that they've said, while I respect and admire their passion for the topic, it's frustrating for me as a scientist who did this work for them to be misconstruing data I observed and I collected. Especially when they're saying DOE has been spreading all this misinformation. And I kind of think it's hypocritical because I feel they're spreading misinformation as well. Among those things are the northward flowing underground Taze River. There is no underground Taze River that flows north. There is no groundwater that flows north. Groundwater and surface water are closely related. Surface water flows south from the Scioto to the Ohio. Groundwater flows the same way. The other thing that was called into question, and something that I wasn't here last week to hear about or to witness firsthand, but that is the seeps, surface water seeps that were called into question a few times. This is where groundwater leaches out of the surface, well, leaches out into the surface. I personally went out into the field and identified potential seeps. And the only time I ever witnessed flow from these potential seeps was after a rain event. These were not, in my professional opinion, true bedrock to surface seeps. The other thing that I've had an issue with is, Mayor Feeney, when you said that the existing landfills and plumes and contamination, that we're not under any obligation to treat it. We are under an obligation to treat it, and we are. Our current remedial technology that we're doing on those plumes and on that contamination is an accepted form of remediation, not just at DOE sites, but at sites across the state and country. It's not just here. Pump and treat is accepted many, many places. In situ remediation is accepted many places. Monitored natural attenuation is accepted many places. It's not just here. We are treating what's there, and it's effective and more than acceptable. With that, I'll save a little bit more time for thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The next name that I have on my list is Andrea Davis. Is that correct?
President Arnold. My name is Andrea Davis. I was born and raised in Ross County. I currently live on England Hollow Road. I have been a Ross County resident for 50 years. I am here this evening to support doing the right thing, because what the representatives of the village of Piketon are asking you to do is not the right thing. For the Last few years, we at the A plant have been seeking funding for an on-site disposal cell and cleanup to ready the site for reindustrialization. We have obtained the funding and approval from Ohio EPA for our plan to demolish the massive superstructures on site and dispose of them in a responsible and safe manner. I consider Piketon site my backyard. I was raised to clean up my own yard. The only other choice than the cell is to dig up the waste, package and relocate the radiological hazardous waste and put it in other backyards across the United States. I have our shipping lanes if anyone's interested in seeing them. Additionally, have you considered the transportation risks associated with putting that many trucks and trains on highways and railroads across the country? Under the current plan, DOE would send 5,000 truck shipments of waste to Nevada, 500 rail shipments to Utah. Under the plan that the Village of Piketon is proposing, we would be putting 9,700 truck shipments on the road to Nevada, 14,000 rail shipments on the railways to Utah. Using monitoring transportation safety data, it can be calculated that Piketon's proposal to ship all the waste would result in 19 injuries and at least 2 deaths from traffic accidents. This is information taken directly from the proposed plan. The Village of Piketon's plan would also add 6 more years to clean up schedule. Myself and others have explained why the Village of Piketon's concerns are not good for the environmental future of the site and economic prosperity of southern Ohio. So I ask you consider what is their motivation. I have worked at the site for 30 years, and I know if we lose funding, it will reallocate to another DOE site, like in 2001. We will go back into monitoring mode, and the site will not be able to be reused. When we went into monitoring mode, employment dropped from 2,000 to 500. This will happen again. The 3,777 acres will sit there just like the wherever site on Eastern Avenue, monitoring the plumes and hoping there will be no impact to the public and environment. However, we can do the right thing. Support the funding for the state-of-the-art on-site disposal cell, clean up the site, not spread our backyard across the U.S., limit fossil fuel usage, and lessen the risks of transportation accidents. The cell will be built on 100 acres, which will consolidate and compact the waste which is now contained on the site unprotected. I ask you to vote no on this resolution because it is full of misinformation and overstatements. Voting no is the right thing to do. And if anyone's interested in these.
Thank you. The next name I have on the list is Greg Simonton.
Thank you. My name is Greg Simonton. I'm one of 17 federal employees at the DOE site. And I'd first like to start off by saying thank you again for the time you've allotted to us to speak to you tonight. Your responsibility to your constituents has been demonstrated by the time you've spent educating yourself and trying to get a handle on such a difficult topic. I'd like to, in the interest of saving time, I'd like to really get down to 3 points. We're not here today as a federal government. I'm a federal employee. We're not here today to try to coerce or influence your vote one way or the other. In fact, I believe it would be inappropriate for the federal government to interfere in any way, shape, or form. But I do want to say the path forward that we've chosen was not made in a vacuum. The path forward is the safe one. We've been able to demonstrate that through engineering and design, mathematical modeling, that's allowed the Ohio EPA, the US EPA, and the Department of Health to all agree with us that it's a safe path forward. Anything that we do at the site, and those of you that took the tour, you saw how important safety is. Know that. This path forward also reflects what we heard loud and clear from the community, and that was that the community would like to see a reindustrialization program. a reindustrialization program that can take advantage of the unique infrastructure that's unique to the entire country. And most importantly, to some people at the end, it's also fiscally responsible. But know this, we all have bosses. I have a wife and 3 daughters, so I have a lot of bosses. And so does the Department of Energy. If headquarters or Congress tells the department to change course, we'll be good soldiers and we'll salute and do it. In fact, I can say without a doubt the department will proceed on with gusto like we always do with every project. We will do that also safely, complying with all laws. We'd be mindful of the community desires for an end state, and we'd also do that within the confines of the fiduciary responsibility we hold as a federal entity. This community deserves, and this community will get, a quality cleanup. I'd like to say thank you for your dedication to public service. And democracy does only work with open and transparency and a lot of communication. And tonight you're seeing that firsthand. So thank you guys for your time.
Thank you. The next name that I have on the sheet is Greg Willett. Is that correct?
It's Wilkett. That's fine.
It's what? I'm sorry.
It's Wilkett.
Wilkett.
Yes,
I
sir.
thought I didn't read that right, but okay, I'm sorry.
No, it's probably my handwriting.
Okay.
It's okay. Well, good evening. My name is Greg Wilkett. I'm a resident of Piketon, and I live right there in the village. In fact, my friend the mayor is my neighbor by a few streets over, so we're very close to the plant. My family on the wife's side is one of the largest private landowners in Pike County. So our kids are lifelong students at the Scioto Valley local schools. So I think you can say I have a stake in the decision. I'm also an employee at the plant, working for a company called RSI. We're a company of engineers, scientists, environmentalists, and our job is to provide oversight and review of all the designs and efforts that are provided by contractors like 4BWXT. So from my vantage point, we've got a lot of information and data, and we spent a lot of time doing a lot of technical review of the design of the OSWDF. So obviously, there's really 3 main topics. Safety is the priority, and if you don't have a good, safe design and you don't believe in it wholeheartedly, then really the economic and political aspects don't really matter a whole lot. And from my vantage point and the vantage point of folks that work in my organization, I can say wholeheartedly that I believe that the OSWDF is designed correctly. I believe it is sited correctly on the best geological structure on our reservation. And I also believe that the waste acceptance criteria that is proposed for the landfill is protective of human life and the environment. And last thing I'll say on safety is, it really would be hard to stretch your imagination to the point where, the Department of Energy, all the external technical reviews that go on in a design like this, the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency, the United States Environmental Protection Agency, the Ohio Department of Health, the Ohio, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the U.S. Geological Service, companies like ours that have a reputation for being very technical, and we say no more than we say yes. It's really hard to believe that all of those entities would get together and say, hey, let's let something be built somewhere where it wouldn't be safe, or somewhere where it would harm the environment or the public. That just didn't happen. So I believe it's safe. So if you get past the safety issue, then you go to the economic issue, and there is no question if we change course and ship this off-site, it's going to be a devastating impact to the local community. It's going to be devastating for our local employment. And the political ramifications of starting over from square one are uncertain at best. It's the best you can say about them. And if they're uncertain, that's not good for us. It's not good for our plant. It's not good for our funding. It's not good for us in general. So, like my friends that have just spoken, I too think that it's very commendable that the council has taken the time to try to understand the issue. But I would also suggest that process should continue. The village's consultant was invited to technical meetings where they could sit down and have an open dialogue. They chose not to attend. I'd like to see more meetings scheduled so they could attend in an open forum. We could all I understand the technical issues and you have to make informed decisions. So I would submit that the council table this issue until such time that you can really understand and know that when you cast a vote, you're really casting a vote for the correct issue. So your resolution really does matter. Your constituents will be affected. And I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Yes, we have gone about 1 minute over our 15 minutes, although there's still a lot of people on the list. As council president, I have the right to extend the time to try to, and that's gearing on how much participation is here. I will go on ahead and basically put another 15 minutes of time on to let more people speak. I don't want this, we went through it, everybody at 5 minutes apiece. We'll be here until about 11:30, I guess, tonight, and I don't think anybody wants to be here that late. So again, I'll put on another 15 minutes of time, trying to keep an eye on it. If everybody would, again, be conscientious of the other people that want to speak. Given that, the next person I have to speak is Eric Woods.
President Arnold, council members, thank you. My name is Eric Woods. I'm a project director with Florida BWXT. 2010 until the ROD was finalized in 2015, I was the manager responsible for development of the waste disposition RIFS proposed plan and record of decision. I was responsible for the teams that worked on that project. I also want to thank the council for taking time to understand the details. This is a very, very important issue. It's a very complicated issue, and it's not an issue that's going to be understood through sound bites and headlines and brief statements of meetings. In November of 2014, the proposed plan was issued for public review. That proposed plan is a summary of the technical evaluation, which was the basis for this decision the DOE made. The proposed plan said very clearly the data that was collected throughout the RIFS process, that technical evaluation, the modeling that data was used to produce, and demonstrated that the OSWDF would be protected for more than 1,000 years. That, the proposed plan with the modeling and the data collection pointed back to the technical evaluation, the RIFS, just like it did for every other issue. That document was a summary, and the detailed evaluation was the document that had to be looked at to understand all of the details and the information that went in. In November of 2014, the WDRIFS, the technical evaluation, was put out on the DOE website. You can go out there today, Google that, hit the link, open it up. You can search on terms like fracturing, and you'll find that term mentioned over 100 times in that document. All of the information on the geology below the OSWDF site was clearly presented, it was accurate, and it was available a few clicks away. The safety of the OSWDF and the long-term protectiveness was obviously a paramount issue in this decision, but it wasn't the only issue. Other people have brought up the issues of the landfills and plumes. That was also a very important issue. The decision the DOE made in the WD record of decision allowed for the removal of contaminated soil from those landfills and plumes for use in the OSWDF. The removal of that soil, contaminated soil from landfills and plumes, was not evaluated in the off-site alternative. This was an opportunity. This was a win-win for the construction of the cell, and it would remove that contaminated soil from the center of that site, which would allow industrial development, which was a big, big issue for everyone involved. As Allison pointed out, there's existing plumes that are out there, existing groundwater contamination. It's not migrating towards Chillicothe, it's not migrating towards Columbus or Chicago or anywhere else. It's contained on that site, it's being managed. Other issues that were very, very important, local jobs. We heard, and I was involved in every meeting with DOE, every meeting with Ohio EPA, all the technical teams that evaluated the information, wrote these documents. I was involved in every step of that for over 5 years. And jobs was a big issue. The OSWDF would create local jobs. The offsite alternative would put waste into trucks and into rail cars, and it would be transportation companies taking that out west. That was another factor that was important. There were several issues that stood out, but the one that compelled the team more than anything else was the idea that if you loaded this material into trucks and rail cars and you shipped it off-site, all the material that was being generated through D&D and remediation activities at that site, the projected fatalities would go from 0.6 under the selected alternative to 2.4 under the off-site alternative. And that, we have wonderful people that package our waste, we have wonderful people that transport our waste, yes sir. But the statistics demonstrated that up to 2.4 people could be killed by that action. And as pointed out, the injuries increased as well. That was a very, very significant issue. The team that developed this document was an outstanding team. We had local subcontracts. We had people that had been in the site for long periods of time. And we had national experience that we pulled in. We hired WAI, a local firm, outstanding people at that firm, to finalize our proposed plan and our records of decision. They did an excellent job. The people in Floor BWXT, which were the senior advisors in this project, Dennis Carr, Dr. J.D. Chu, Dr. Mark Jewett, are three of the most ethical, technically competent people that you will run across in this industry. I've worked for more than 20 years with all three of those gentlemen. The idea that they could be involved with something that would be an intentional misleading of the public or misrepresentation of facts is frankly nonsense. It just could not happen. 5 minutes. I appreciate your time, and I just ask that please understand the facts and the history. There's a lot of detail behind this. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, we had a review session, and I think most of us here, and we heard a lot of this information. I don't want to cut it off, but we heard a lot of information from the workers, from the plant, and I think that we need to find a way to hear from the general public.
Now we're to the people.
Orderly way.
All I can continue to do is to keep going down this list.
Well, I have heard everyone who has spoken here, and they did a great job. We had a review session. We were here till almost 9 o'clock. They brought in all kinds of displays, and we've gotten great materials from them. And I appreciate everything that you all have done, but I just don't think that it makes, for a better word, makes sense.
They're not voting for us. We are the ones who are doing the voting.
Okay. I want to not let this turn into a great big room discussion here. I'll just be real honest with you. I'm going down this sheet as people signed up.
Yes, that's
I'm allowing extra time. I'm waiting kind of to hear from another side. I have not heard yet, but I'm not taking sides on this, but I am letting extra time to try to get everybody to have a say. I will say, once again, the people that we're up to 21 and a half minutes. We got about 8.5 minutes left if I run this to 30 minutes. I'm just wanting everybody to not try to take the full 5 minutes. I can't keep you from doing it, but try to make it brief to be considerate of the other people that are trying to talk. And that way it'll let more people on this list have time to talk. If you want, I'll go clear to the bottom of this list so that everybody that signed up will talk. I don't know that anybody wants to be here all night to do that.
President Robert, we've had 7
It's
people
worth
from
it.
the facility down there speak. I mean, we got a lot of people in here. I don't know how you think you're gonna do this. I really don't wanna be here all night. I've already heard
I don't either,
stuff.
but
I've heard for the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
I'm going right down the list.
I know, but if you keep going by that list, it looks like it's loaded at the top.
They stacked the deck. They stacked the deck.
Yes, they got here early and got their names on the list.
Could you possibly talk to people, let people go that we haven't heard from before?
Okay. going all the way
It
down
might-
through
it
here,
might
these are all.
put a few more that are.
These are all repetitive names from previous meetings, I can look at those all.
Because I don't, I just honestly,
The next name I have on the list is Jim Bennett.
I don't think we've heard from him.
Jim's new.
Welcome, Jim.
Jim's new.
Jim's new.
Thank you, President Arnold,
Yes.
and thank you, council members, for giving me a chance to speak. I am not a scientist. I am a resident of Ross County, and my concern is, let's be good neighbors. Piketon Village has opposed this, plus several other groups. I would like to encourage you to also go along and oppose this. There is a mystery. We cannot predict if a leak might occur. We cannot predict how it will affect all of southern Ohio, including Chillicothe. We have heard a lot about jobs, which concerns us all. Yes, we'd all love to have more jobs here. However, there has been no prediction of how many jobs would be gained or lost if this is passed or defeated. Lastly, speaking about being a good neighbor, I'm not only thinking about the people that live in Pike County, but also future generations. I would hate to leave this to our children and grandchildren to have to deal with. I urgently ask the council to oppose having this in Pike County. Thank you so much for your time.
The next name I have on the list is Reverend Terry Williams.
I will endeavor to be brief because you have heard from me before. You should have before you a letter that has been drafted from our congregation, Orchardville United Church of Christ here in Chillicothe. We were rather surprised when at your review session meeting, one of our youngest members, who was moved to fear the last time she was here at your regular meeting, moved to fear so much that she had to consult not only with her pastors, but with her parents and her grandparents about this issue. She brought to you a letter. We drafted on behalf of the ministerial coalition at our church, myself and the Reverend Douglas McCord, my associate pastor, the following letter. The following letter was read aloud to Chillicothe City Council's review session meeting on December 4th, 2017 by Miss Lydia Copeland, an 8-year-old member of our congregation. Her words are as follows. Hello, my name is Lydia Copeland. I am 8. I live in Chillicothe. At the last meeting about the nuclear waste dump, it scared me a lot. I'm worried that something could go wrong and the water won't be safe. I'm worried the nice parks I go to will be ruined and the wildlife will be gone. I'm worried I might have to move away, and I like it here. My mom tells me the risk is small, but she isn't sure. People make mistakes all the time. I feel bad for the people who would lose their jobs if the dump is not built, but it will be worse to ruin this whole beautiful place forever. Then no one will play or work here anymore. The people who live around where they want the dump to be built don't want it, but nobody is listening to them because they are small. I know what that is like. I think every voice should matter. Thank you for listening. We write this day to affirm our support of Lydia as a member of our congregation and her quest to be heard. We support her conviction that every voice, even small ones like people from Pike County, like people from Ross County, like folk who are not paid to be in this room and to be connected to these jobs, even those people should matter. We encourage people everywhere to hear the people of Pike County who clearly say they do not want the on-site waste disposal facility, they do not want the nuclear waste dump to be built. I think it's really incumbent upon us to remember that while a lot of large government agencies may have been convinced, the people of the village of Piketon were not convinced. The people of the village of Waverly weren't either. How would we feel if we had members from Cincinnati and Dayton and Columbus come to us and say, you should just accept what we have decided for you, even if you don't care for it. After all, we are the experts. I have a feeling we would feel the same way the mayor from Piketon and the mayor from Waverly and the councils have felt. I would appeal to you to hear the words of our children, to think about our children's future. Our children and our grandchildren will have to bear the results of whatever this end looks like. We better hope it's not just safe for 1,000 years, but for 2,000 or 3,000 or 4. We better hope it's safe for all of our children. Thank you.
Okay, the next name I have on the list is Dennis Foreman.
You want my address again?
Have it on the list.
Okay, I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to be rude. Thank you. Thank you, council. Once again, I'm here. Like I said, I've spent more time with you guys than I've been at home. I love to be at home. I had an 81-year-old father. I called him on the way here. I cried. I'll admit it. I'm worn out. I feel like no one cares about my town. I'm going to read something. Tecumseh was among the most celebrated Indian leaders in history and was known as a strong orator. I hope I do a good job. I know I'm no Tecumseh, but we're still in this same area. And what did they have to deal with? People coming to take their land. That's my land down there in Pike County. That's where I grew up. That's where I was born. That's where I own properties. That's where I'm going to stay. He talks about family right here, Mr. Wilkett, earlier. I bought the property off his father-in-law. I bought it on a handshake at an auction. He knows that. He's heard the story. Firm Beavers is a good friend of mine. The area is small, so I know a lot of people here. I know the people out in the hallway. These are my friends. But Tecumseh was trying to get other people to listen, to help out. That's all we're trying to do, is to get our voice heard. You're hearing how these things are safe, and what I'm getting sick of is to say, well, it's going to be real bad to ship it away. Who asked Piketon to bring in all those 14-ton cylinders, almost 30,000 of them from Oak Ridge? You guys know those got shipped into here too? They come right through here. Did you know that? Who asked Piketon to bring in all the stuff from Fernald? They brag about the cleanup. Millions of pounds. Who asked me at Piketon? No one asked me. Here's the Department of Energy. Never come to our meeting until 2016. Why'd you ignore us for? When that little girl spoke last week, I cried. It was amazing to think she gets it. We're a group of adults. We need to pay attention to each other because the divisive measures that's going on in our country today is sickening. We can be the leaders of this area forever. 1,000-year decision, do you really want to make that? Do you want to destroy 100 generations history for my people? We are Southern Ohio. We are beat down all the time. We're made fun of. They say we look funny. We talk funny. We drive funny cars. We like 4x4 pickup trucks. We sound like a bunch of hillbillies. Whatever. We're good people. We work hard. We work very hard. I appreciate everything. Before I come here, the last 3 times, I've been making hot dogs and peanuts and all that stuff for the kids all the time. I've donate all my time. Yesterday I went shopping with the JCs. People, you know what the biggest problem is in America today? We don't volunteer enough, everybody. All we want to do is complain and do a Facebook status. Get up and do something. We need to support each other. You guys, I was at Rockford Tots. I was at JC's yesterday for here. And I'm not doing that just for you guys. I do that for the children. I spend more time in this county than I do my own county. You guys are like Little House on the Prairie. We're going to the big city, and this is the big city for us. This is where we come to shop, and that's where I take my girlfriends out to eat. I used to go to Majestic when it was a $2 movie. That's where we went. That's like this. We had to go to. We don't have a movie theater in Pike County. And then the thing you people forget is Piketon, the plant. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Simon, you're a federal employee. Piketon is one of the unique plants that's raised over $1.3 billion in the barter system. Am I correct? Am I correct?
I'm not sure the amount, but yes,
It's over $1 billion. We could be over $1 billion. No one else in the United States has done this. We've done it. We've paid our dues. When you're talking about seeps and stuff, how much does it rain lately? You see all the floods? Oh yeah, when she talks about seeps. We got them all over in Southern Ohio. I got lots of them on my property. Lots of them. I own a lot of property there. The 100 acres they talk about, it takes about 300 acres for the whole thing because you got to have the runoff ponds and everything. But 100 acres, that's your whole historic district. Would be covered in nuclear waste.
Yeah, why not?
1 minute, thank you. You talk about SSAB? I am the current chairman of Future Use. Am I correct, Mr. Simington?
Yes, you are.
Thank you. I'm the one fighting for our future use. Here's the problem. They're not telling you they're tearing out all the big electric things. They're not telling you what they're going to leave. There's not much. I ask for these discussions all the time. What's it going to be? We're dirt poor. You think all that's going to look like the craters of the moon? And who in their right mind would want to build there? No chamber can get anyone to move there beside a nuclear dump that's supposed to be good for 1,000 years. No one. So let's don't talk about reindustrialization. That's a pipe dream. That'd be like saying I was going to get in weight and have a nice hairdo tomorrow. It ain't going to happen. We got one shot to do the right thing. One shot. This is it. One shot to do the right thing. There's no do-overs. They bury it, we're done for 1,000 years. You might as well put a tombstone at each end of Pike County and say goodbye to us, our good friends in Chillicothe.
Amen.
We need your help. We need you guys. If I have to beg, I'll beg. But we need you. Thank you for the people coming out tonight. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you.
We're over our 30 minutes by about a minute and a half. I will let one more person speak, and the next person on the list to kind of make more of a balance in numbers. And the next person I have on, and this will be the last person to speak. Next person I have to speak is Portia Bolger.
It's fair. Thank you, President Arnold. You've been very generous, and this is what democracy looks like. Thank you so much. Can you all hear me real well?
A little louder, hon, a little louder.
First of all, Mayor Feeney, thank you. I think I heard you say that you're supporting this ordinance. Is that correct? I don't
No,
know.
I said that what I support is the absolute cleanup of those plumes and
But you don't support the ordinance.
the ordinance doesn't say anything about the plumes, and that's the thing
What
that
I want
scares
to
me.
know is, do you support the ordinance as our mayor?
I
Yes or
really,
no?
he doesn't vote, so I really don't think that's a question.
Well, we vote for mayor.
I realize that.
Now, you're being held on record, Mr. Feeney. Understand
I'm
that.
well aware.
Understand
But
that.
I think
I
the
also
question's
thank
out of
you
order,
all
please.
for the patience that you've given, but we as voters need to know who our elected officials stand for. Do they stand for the people, or do they stand for pollution and destroying Southern Ohio? Maybe you won't be here then, huh? Anyway, Southern Ohio is near and dear to most of the people in this room because we were born and raised here. We're going to die here. Our babies are born here, our grandchildren and our great-children and so forth. So I'm very disappointed in our mayor today. Anyway, we've got some folks like this lady. I agree with one thing that you said, and I was inaccurate. I made a statement that the water flew north. The information that was given to me was not correct. But that's the only thing I agree. This woman should have to present her credentials to you. She gets up here and she says she's this and she says she's that, and she performed this type of experiment or that. Her words are just words. So if you want to make an impact, you need to put your credentials on the table and give us learned studies. Otherwise, you're just a paid employee. So that's all I've got to say, other than we need to care about Southern Ohio. Whether the water flows north or whether the water flows south, it don't really mean a damn to me. What I care about is that my community is not connected with the waste dump, and that my community has leaders that are strong enough to stand up and say no. I don't know what happened from the time this resolution was presented until now. I don't know if money's, people are asking me, okay, so I'm going to tell you what I'm hearing. Are these people getting paid off? Are they getting promised some kind of favor down the line? Because it started out as a no-brainer, and now we've got the mayor of our city that can't even support it. What is going on in Chillicothe, folks? What is going on, Mr. Flumima, Mrs. Gray? What is going on? Thank you.
All right, that ends our public participation. We're going to move on. The next thing we have is old business. Does anybody have any old business they'd like to bring forward? The next thing is petitions and correspondence that was received by our clerk.
Mr. President, I have nothing to report tonight.
Okay. The next thing then after that, I have new business. Yes, Mrs. Gray.
Thank you, President Arnold. I would like to make a motion to excuse Councilman Patrick and Councilman Neal.
I have a motion to excuse councilpersons Patrick and Neal. Seconded by Mr. Florina. Roll call on that motion.
Corcoran.
Yes.
Florina.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Hines.
Yes.
Kearney.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Tatman.
Yes.
And we have excused them from the meeting this evening. Any other new business this evening? Not seeing any, we'll move forward. Committee assignments and meeting dates. We only had one committee assignment since our last meeting, and that was to Safety Services. And that was to accept and appropriate $31,339 received from insurance claims, and that money will be going into traffic control signals. And as far as meetings, I mentioned that our next meeting would be after Christmas, which would be Wednesday, December the 27th at 7:30. And also, Mr. Kroll mentioned earlier that the final budget meeting will be December the 18th here in Chambers at 6:30, and that's all I have. And at this point, we will move on to our legislation. Whenever you're ready, Mr. Clausen, item number 1.
Third reading of a resolution authorizing the mayor of the city of Chillicothe to contract with the Ross County Commissioners for the Ross County Building Department to be designated as the city's chief building official and to do the city's commercial building work in 2018, to establish an administrative fee and declaring an emergency. Third reading.
Roll call on that item, please.
Corcoran.
Yes.
Florina.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Hines.
Yes.
Kearney.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Tatman.
Yes.
And that resolution has passed. Item number 2.
Second reading of a resolution opposing the construction of an on-site waste disposal facility at the U.S. Department of Energy's Portsmouth Gaseous Diffusion Plant in Piketon, Ohio. Second reading.
Item number 3.
Second reading of an ordinance adopting Amendment 2017-1 of the Ross County, City of Chillicothe Thoroughfare Plan to reprioritize the State Route 159 widening project from intermediate to high priority status and declaring an emergency. Second reading.
Item number 4.
Second reading of a resolution creating a designated outdoor refreshment area for downtown Chillicothe and the designated hotel area on Bridge Street and declaring an emergency. Second reading.
Item number 5.
First reading of an ordinance authorizing the city auditor to create a new line item in the general fund, Mayor's Special Programs Miscellaneous, to accept and appropriate all wedding ceremony fees received by the mayor's office and declaring an emergency. First reading.
And last but not least, item number 6.
First reading of a resolution supporting a challenge to the constitutionality of amendments proposed by the Ohio General Assembly to Chapter 718 of the Ohio Revised Code and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Mr. Kroll.
At this time, I would like to respectfully ask that we waive the 3-read rule as requested by the auditor.
I have a motion to waive the 3-read rule, seconded by Mr. Florina. Roll call on that motion.
Corcoran.
Yes.
Florina.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Hines.
Yes.
Kearney.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Tatman.
Yes.
And we have waived that 3-read rule. Roll call on item number 6.
Corcoran.
Yes.
Florina.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Hines. Yes. Kearney.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Tatman.
Yes.
And that resolution has passed. In closing, real quick, like, I just want to say, I didn't want to.
President Arnold, point
Yes.
of order.
Yes.
I need to make a motion to go into executive session.
Okay, and what are we going into executive session for?
For contract negotiations.
Okay.
Before we go into executive session, I'd just like to ask a question. You set the meeting for Wednesday, the 27th.
Yes.
Is it any way that we could have a special meeting to vote on the ordinance, the second ordinance here opposed to construction on-site waste disposal rather than the 27th prior to Christmas?
The mayor or members of council would have to call for a special meeting. I do not.
Does anyone have any objection of holding a special meeting prior to Christmas so that we can consider this and move on? We have a lot of other work to before the.
We do it Monday after budget review.
I am not available for any meeting on Monday or Tuesday, so I'll be in Cleveland.
I don't know what we mean by special meeting.
A special meeting in order.
I mean, would it be
A special meeting
a
would
review
be,
session or a?
well, it would be if we have legislation that we need to get passed and there's some sort of an emergency that has to get done, we would
Well,
have
I'm not gonna be here
a
either.
special meeting in order to pass that
20
legislation.
27. I already have plans of ticket and I'll be out of the state. So, and I certainly would like to be involved in this process. And that's why I'm questioning if we can do it another time.
Dr. Kearney, this is your committee, and I am on your committee, and I defer to you if that's something that you want to do.
The rules read that a special meeting, the mayor or 3 members of council can call for a special meeting, only by giving 24-hour notice to each member, and also, of course, to the media. And actually it's supposed to be served or left at our personal residence. That's something in the rules we should look at and how we get served for meetings. But either the mayor or 3 members of council can call for a special meeting.
I'm happy to call a meeting, just pick a date.
Mr. Paulson, when will you be available? Before the 27th?
Wednesday, the 20th.
20th.
I don't know where this would play in, so I'll say it, and if it doesn't play in and I've got it wrong, so be it. I just would like to recognize that the resolution that we are getting ready to meet on and pass is not what was given to us at the last meeting as the request from Piketon. So what this says and what this says, and I thought we were.
This right here really has nothing to do with this resolution. This was basically part of a presentation. If we want to amend.
That's not what I was told after the meeting when I asked last week.
We're really not into discussions right now. We do
No,
have
but
a
I'm
motion-
just saying,
we do
so,
have a motion on the-
I'm just saying I
we
have a
we
problem
motion right now for an
with the
executive-
motion and
executive
than what I was
Okay.
given last week.
Well, I would like, for the mayor if he can, and anyone else, a special meeting for the 20th. And if we have any type of amendments, that they can be made at that
That's
particular
what
time.
I wanted to know.
Yes,
Yes,
and-
okay.
And mayor made
That's all I
some
wanted to
suggestions
know.
also.
So I'll make that announcement now and I'll do the delivery.
Okay, well, actually, clerk, unfortunately, clerk does the delivery.
Yep, even better.
Am I not right on that?
Actually, in the past, the mayor's office has had the police department do personal deliveries.
Oh, there you go.
I don't want to step on any union.
Ice, any ice.
Amen.
Okay. So, special meeting,
Well,
after budget, where we
No,
go-
no, no, not on the 20th, not after.
Oh, the 20th,
Yeah,
I'm sorry. And what-
18th is budget.
And what time are we calling this?
whenever,
Regular
regular time.
7:30.
7:30, 7:30? Wednesday the 20th.
And the purpose of the meeting is solely to vote on the strategic piece of legislation.
That would be the sole purpose of that meeting, yes.
Or any other purpose the mayor should.
Do I need to do a formal notice still? The media and all that stuff? Okay. Yeah. So plan on that, and I know there might be an unappropriating ordinance coming, that kind of thing. So if there's other stuff, we might stack it in, but
Okay.
I'll do a specific announcement.
Basically, the media is sitting behind you, so. They've technically been informed.
Yeah.
Okay, I do-
So it'd be at a bare minimum, this topic, and maybe something in the audio office.
I do have a motion on the floor that I want to move forward with. We'll go to executive session. If you'll bear with me, Mr. Gray, for 1 second. I just wanted to make the announcement before we lose our home audience. If you wonder why the camera looks so good tonight, it's because I have put a new camera up here, and the contrast, the color, everything should be better, and it doesn't go wonky and fly all over the room. And I didn't say it earlier because I didn't want to jinx it. So everything has worked out good for the media as far as our telecast this evening. So, and at this point, I have seconded by Mr. Florina. Roll call on the motion to move into executive session for the purpose of
Contract negotiations.
contract negotiations. Roll call on that motion, please.
Corcoran.
Yes.
Florina.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Hines.
Yes.
Attorney.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Tatman.
Yes.
We're in executive session, folks.